This is Radical Soda's.
Yeah, you get it. This is part 6. The playlist is right here. Thanks for watching. Here we go. And with that all completed, Katie gives us some No, she doesn't. She does not give you that. She gives you cupcakes. And the bug badge. Yes, it's literally just called the bug badge. It's as stock standard as you can get. Arvin really wasn't kidding that he just copied the regular gym badge look. Usually in Pokemon games, the badges would have fun designs and names to set them apart from one another. But then again, in other Pokemon games, the gym interiors would also get this treatment. I suppose they really are going for the extracurriculum school situation, what with all the sapping any creativity and fun from the gyms and their badges. I feel like I'm right back in school, uniform and all. What was the thought process here? Kids don't like school, Game Freak! Katie also gives us the TM for Pounce, a new move introduced in this generation. And before you can ask, we are still missing a ton of old moves from previous games thanks to Dexit. Some won't really be missed, such as Razor Wind. I don't think anyone really used that. Or Constrict 10 damage for real? But most of these moves are still perfectly usable. What, you gonna get rid of Wake Up, Slap, Bone Club? Screw Cubone, I guess. Hidden Power? Huh? So many moves here that still have some sort of use still needed in the game. Bloody Chip Away is in here! Have a look through these, not including the Z moves, Dynamax moves, and legendary signature moves. There's still over like 100 of these bad boys ripped clean out of the game. Freaking Licky Licky, one of my favorite Pokemon lines, learns both Chip Away and Ring Out by Level Up. What's he gonna learn now? Oh, I see nothing because he isn't in the game. Katie also shows us the shop she bakes for, but as it turns out, we can't buy anything here because there's one guy who can't make up his mind. Also, it wasn't programmed into the game. I'm gonna do something to someone, and it ain't gonna be pretty. I know I said I wasn't gonna mention the graphical glitches all too much anymore, but this was weird enough to the point where I jotted it down on my notes. When I used Psybeam on this Meowth here, the whole screen, duplicated. Surprisingly enough, Meowth didn't get a regional form here. What with the Alolan form and Galarian form, I figured they were starting a new kind of tradition, but I suppose the Persian rework takes that spot this time around. I also realized that I haven't actually been mentioning any of the area's music since I talked about Poco Path. It's fine. It's Pokemon-y, it does the job, but heck, I can't remember any of them off the top of my head, and I spend hours listening to them. They are the most generic Pokemon adventure-y music you can get. The areas themselves don't even have proper names you can link them to. It's just Area 1, Area 2, Area 3, Area 4. Oh, that's why it's called Area 0. There's a ton of great route music out there in all sorts of Pokemon games, but I wouldn't put this game's area music in that same group. There's nothing really all that unique to them to stand out amongst the crowd. What the heck is this regional Trapinch? Another new Pokemon makes its appearance, or at least tries to. Can barely see a thing over all the special effects going on. Is that a big-ass pile of shit? Rella is a new bug-type Pokemon based on the dung beetle, and it is, how do I say this, underwhelming? I mean, it is a Pokemon based on a dung beetle. It is not cool, it is not cute, it is not really, important. It just kind of exists as one of those filler Pokemon, like Goldeen. Its evolution does something more interesting, but as far as Rella goes, it's not super anything. Even its name is uninteresting. Rellor. It's just roller backwards, like freaking Ekans. It's not even moving a big pile of shit. Apparently it's just mud, dirt, and sand. So who gives a crap? Literally, give this man some crap! Okay, future Ed here. I was just looking at images for Rellor to try and find one for this video, and I came across this. And now I kind of really like him. And then I see him pushing his little mud ball across the sand, and I don't know. I'm starting to really grow a soft spot for him. Maybe he's not so bad after all. Maybe he's just a little guy. Maybe I gotta be a little less judgmental on appearances. Just take him for what he is. Saw another new Pokemon almost immediately afterwards, Greavard. What's with the fascination Game Freak has with dog Pokemon this gen? Mastiff, Fido, I keep wanting to say Puppy Mochi, and now Greavard on top of that? I'm not complaining per se, I'm just a little confused. Anyway, I don't have strong feelings towards Greavard. It's a pure ghost type and has a little candle on its head, which it uses to lure prey in. At least I'm guessing it's prey in, when it buries itself in the ground. There could be a bunch of inspirations from Spanish mythology or folklore, which this Pokemon is based on, which is great, but when I look at it, all I see is the giant chin. Didn't pick this one up myself. Much prefer Puppy Mochi. Funnily enough, after that, we ran into another new Pokemon. Climbed this tower over here. Absolute miracle the NPC beside it didn't freeze in place like the ones in Sword and Shield. Although we did animation cancel. Must be a fellow gamer. And sitting atop the tower was this chest. Some sort of mimic Pokemon? Oh, not you! Yep, this is Gimmighoul's second form, or I guess first form, seeing as the wandering form wasn't originally available in the game. Weirdly enough, you can't actually run from this battle. It's got a weird arena trap thing going on without actually having the ability. At least I think that's what happened to me in the game. I think, again. I guess it does fit in with the mimic theming. You already know what I think about Gimmighoul, but does putting it in a chest make it any better? Well, it swaps the stats around. Gimmighoul is not exactly what I would call a real Pokemon. It only learns 2 moves, has terrible stats, and to be honest, is only here to be a stepping stone for its evolution. I mean, sure, you can teach it a few TMs, but that's only gonna go so far. I feel a little sorry for those who put it on their team thinking it evolved without having to collect 1,000 of the Gimmighoul coins. Speaking of, I did get 60 of them after I caught the darn thing. Didn't want to get in the Pokeball. 2 Ultra Balls? Nah. Great Ball? Nah. But the 3rd regular-ass Pokeball? That's the one, baby. One thing that did really stand out to me, or at least got me to actually realize it during this battle, was the fact that the level of the opposing Pokemon isn't always displayed. Actually, your level and health and any other stats aren't really shown all the time either. I get not wanting to make the screen cluttered with all sorts of different UI elements, but Pokemon hasn't changed its UI setup since Generation 1, and having the info on the screen at all times is genuinely helpful. If anything, I'd like to see more information without having to go through menus. Like, I mean, for one, they removed the EXP meter below the HP bar. I can't tell you why that is. But show me the enemy Pokemon's type. You know, if I've encountered it before, show me what stats have been lowered or raised without having me to pull up a separate menu. It's easy as putting them below the health bar or above it, maybe even on the side of the screen. Like, you're seeing as sometimes the HP is weirdly close to the Pokemon itself, I would prefer the option to set the enemy health bars to the top right or something. Like, there's so many little things Pokemon could do to improve the experience, but they just don't. I did do a bunch more exploring, kind of letting the environment point me in whatever direction to go. I stumbled across a bunch of Pawmies, so that was interesting. What the shit? Why is one of them standing? Thought it was shiny for a second. What with that slightly different fur color? But no, apparently this is another new Pokemon. Pawmo. Pawmi's evolution. If you can call it that. It stood up. I didn't think Pawmi was gonna get an evolution, to be honest. Plusle, Minun, Pachirisu, Emolga, Dedenne, Togedemaru, none of them had evolutions, so I just didn't really think about it. But then again, calling this an evolution is a bit of a stretch. Like, if Pachirisu finally got an evolution after all this time, would you be satisfied with this? I think it's sexy. Anyway, I ran from it because it was creeping me out and kept exploring, you know, seeing what old Pokemon were around, fighting any trainers I came across. Hang on a second. You're telling me they removed the unique trainer intro music? I always liked those. Man, every minute I spend in this game, I'm finding something new Game Freak got rid of. It's getting a bit ridiculous, to be honest. Finally back on track, and we're on our way to the Psychic-type gym. Despite my exploring, I couldn't figure out how to get up to where I needed to be, and my last option was this cave at the bottom of the cliff here. Man over here really do be hoping he doesn't fall, but standing super precariously close towards the edge. Dude, if I hit you with a stray side beam, I ain't to blame. Look at him, he's standing on an angle. Man wants to die. And into the cave we go. Looks real dark in here. Oh, I should have known. The motion-activated lights. What the heck is going on outside? Is that the sun exploding? That's just sad. The Pokemon here was super high-leveled, but seeing as I wasn't doing a Nuzlocke, I went in for a battle anyway. For some reason, the Dano here didn't want to use an attacking move, so it was real easy. I don't even know if he had an attacking move. Uh-oh. The entrance to the cave here almost looked impassable due to the high ledges, but, you know. Hey, it ain't cheating if it's in the game. The cave was home to all sorts of freaky creatures. I spotted some sticky back geckos a little further in. You see, they cling to the ceiling by their backs, hence the name. As for the cave itself, no problems from there on out. Didn't even have to BLJ, and the trainers don't fight you unless you talk to them, so no issues there. And I made it to the next town in record time. I'll tell you what the name of the town is, but all the game span out at me was South Province Area 6, and even when I entered the town properly, it didn't come up, so I can only assume the name of the town is South Province Area 6. Anyway, South Province Area 6 suffers from the same problem as... Damn it, I can't think of the Katie's Town, where it has a neat theme, this time being pottery tiles. Some guy has ornamental plates on the side of his house, so that's my guess. But it doesn't have anything to friggin' do. Absolutely nothing in terms of optional content, special shops, or interesting side quests. You have the gym, the Pokemon Center, and the food shops. The landscape isn't even all that interesting. The town is one main road and the city's built like a square. They have this big stadium thing with neat little pixel art tiles on it of the Generation 1 party sprites, but all that's used for is the gym battle, just like the tree in Yellow House Town. Anyway, popped into the copy-paste gym and look who's here! It's time for another rival battle, I see. What? Really? At this point, I think Nemona's battled me less than the amount of time she's not battled to me. Girl, I want to fight! What's the big deal? There's still the gym challenge, though. Hopefully this provides us with the battles I crave in my soul. The receptionist tells us we're going to be doing something concerning emotional spectrum practice. ESP funny. Real funny. Heading on back outside, and hey, it's the gym teacher from the school. What's her name? Dendra, of course. How could I forget? She works with Tulip, the gym leader here at South Province Area 6, because they've been friends since childhood, yada, yada, yada. Either way, Dendra tells us she's going to show us a certain movement, and then we have to copy it. What do you mean by that? Man, now this is some gym challenge. Match the face at the top with the button on your controller, look at the low poly Medicham, spam the button because what the actual hell is this, man? This is worse than Spikemuth, and that's really saying something. Well, this is little breaks in between for battles. You know me, I like a good little battle every now and again. The gyms aren't scaled. Why even have an open world game, man? I get that I had to kind of finagle my way up to South Province Area 6, but what about the other gyms, huh? What if you've missed Katie early on and then come back to it later only to be greeted with a total pushover? The way the game talked about the gyms made him seem like a do-it-in-any kind of order sort of thing. The game goes out of its way to say the world's your oyster. Do whatever you like at any time. This is the new open world of Pokemon. But what they really mean is that there's actually a level progression system in place and you should be moving across the map like this! Don't even get me started on the battle here. Firstly, why is everyone from the ESP minigame, if you can call it a minigame, standing so close to the battle? These are fighting animals with laser beams and shit. You think they'd take a step or two back? And secondly, you ever wanted to know what Wiglet's got going on under the ground there? Well, now you do! This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Pokemon Company seal of quality. Sign me up for Gen 10!
It started when a corporation rushed out all their games. It's full of bugs and glitches without any sort of shame. Now I have got a headache and I know just who to blame. It's Gen 10.
That's it, I'll see you in a couple years when that's proven true. I mean, Pokemon throwing out a rushed and buggy game? No way! No way! I don't even know how this underground clipping is possible. It's a flat piece of earth here. What's forcing the game to bug out like this? I absolutely don't have a chance against this thing. Level 43? Oh, hell no. I have a chance. Oh.
What's wrong? That's a good thing, right?
I didn't even watch him. I have no idea how Critter Bazinga got that high of a special friendship stat. Usually you'd need to use Pokemon on me, but that doesn't exist anymore, of course, and it's not washing because I didn't touch him with that. I can only assume that the friendship mechanics just kind of happen on their own now, which, well, for anyone out there trying to do any sort of proper challenge run, good luck to you, I guess, if you don't like this sort of stuff. I mean, Pokemon usually puts things in your favor, but this is a little too much. If you're not familiar with this system, all the way back in Gen 6, X and Y, you could feed and pet your Pokemon in a special little program to increase a special stat with them, represented by love hearts. I think it was called affection, not friendship. With high affection, your Pokemon could gain more experience points, live an attack that would otherwise knock them out with 1 HP, cure themselves from a status condition, dodge a move that would otherwise hit, and even land a crit when they usually wouldn't. Now, I'm not against a system like this. In X and Y, I thought it was done quite well. Your Pokemon even turned their head to look at you when they were sent out. Well, I already talked about how they messed that up in Sword and Shield, and, surprise, surprise, Scarlet and Violet just removed that particular animation altogether, because why fix it when you can just throw it in the trash? The problem I have, and I suppose the whole friendship turning into affection thing issue was in Sword and Shield too. I don't know if I talked about it too much there, but the problem I have with it the way it works here is because I can no longer choose to avoid it. In X and Y, if I don't use Pokemon on me, I don't get the extra advantage. But here, it's out of my hands. It's like the game is telling me you will have an easy time and you will not have a say about it. Not that I'm pissed off that Pokemon is easy, it's always been kind of easy, but it's just another little option that they removed. It's weird just how many steps back they took in this game. I keep finding more and more things they just, I guess, couldn't be bothered keeping around. Like, remember Game Freak's response when they were asked how you were meant to level up just one Pokemon in Sword and Shield now that the shared EXP share was mandatory with no way of turning it off? Oh, well, just put the other Pokemon in your party back into the box. Why are you making me do all the work here? Why can't you just add an option to turn the damn thing off like before? Why do I have to skip around mechanics because you can't be asked programming them in? Or could you be asked but just wanted everyone to play the way you consider the best? Damn, if they really cared about player options and the way people love to play, they would have already added a Nuzlocke mode into the games years ago. Probably the most popular video game challenge of all time, and they've been ignoring it because it's not the way they want you to play. Screw them, I say. Hello, Future Ed here. I just wanted to clarify some stuff regarding the EXP share that I thought about while editing the video. I felt like my original script was very passion-filled, but I couldn't quite put my feelings into words that well. So to start off with, I'm not super annoyed that there is an option for the EXP share, well, I mean, it used to be an option, to have all of your Pokemon gain experience. It's just the way they went about implementing the feature. In X and Y and Sun and Moon, both games that you can turn the all-party EXP share off, the item itself actually gave out more experience than you should actually be getting. Apparently, each Pokemon that participates in a battle gets 100% of the opposing Pokemon's EXP value. And then after that, every Pokemon that didn't participate still gets 50. So, for example, you have a team of 6 Pokemon and you're fighting a wild Rattata that'll give out, let's say, 100 XP. If you just have one Pokemon, you'll get the 100 XP. That's no problem. But you use a team of 6, and let's say you send out Pokemon 1, 2, and 3 to participate in the battle, and the rest just kind of stayed at the back of the party. This means that Pokemon 1, 2, and 3 all get 100 experience each, and 4, 5, and 6 get 50 each. And you can see why this would become a problem in terms of balancing levels, and now suddenly people that are playing on set mode, where, you know, you're sending out more Pokemon to participate in battles because you can't switch out after every time you faint a Pokemon, instead you gotta wait until the opponent sends theirs out. They're just getting way more experience than players playing on Switch, or even players that are losing battles, meaning that players that are doing worse are getting less XP, and players that are doing good are getting way more. This does raise a lot of questions, like, why the heck would Game Freak create an EXP share that gives extra experience? It's an EXP share, not an EXP duplicator, and this is why the option to turn it off in these games is actually worthless, because the games aren't balanced around it. Or maybe if they are, that's why you're so leveled up at the end of X and Y, but I don't think so. I think it's like generally balanced around like a mild EXP share. In some earlier Pokemon games, you could do a little bit of grinding to beef up a newly caught Pokemon, sure, but that was made much less needed with the original EXP share, to the point where I never really bothered grinding, especially if I was just playing normally. You know, what's the point? I was still mostly ready for the majority of challenges ahead of me, and for the ones that I wasn't, well, that made for a memorable battle. Why do you think Cynthia's so damn memorable? But this new EXP share that gives out extra experience? I mean, how do you think it'd fare in one of those older games? I mean, we don't have to imagine, because the copy-paste job of Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl did it for us. You get so incredibly over-leveled in these remakes, to the point it makes the game incredibly boring. And I think that's the issue here in Scarlet and Violet as well. It's extremely convenient to have an EXP share that automatically levels up all your Pokemon, and it's extremely convenient to not have to share some of your main Pokemon's XP with that Magikarp in the back you're trying to evolve. But then what's the point? I just feel it made the game's mechanics trivial. I mean, no need to put any effort into the Magikarp you just caught in order to evolve it, and just slap it on the back of your team and forget about it until it's useful. And no worries, there's absolutely no drawback to having it there at all. All your Pokemon will still get the same amount of XP as before. This also, to be honest, affects my personal connection to my Pokemon. A Pokemon you put a lot of effort into becomes a little bit special to you. It's a little friend for you to take along with you in your many adventures. It's why Pokemon transfers between games was so important for so many people. But now, I don't care about any of these guys. I don't even care about Bear Grylls, because there was nothing interesting about our journey together. I could hatch a Sprigatito right now and in 5 minutes level him up to the exact same level. Now, you could absolutely develop a level curve and a well put together adventure with challenges barriers for the player to overcome using this new XP system. I have absolutely no doubts about that. But this is Game Freak, and the results speak for themselves. I don't know. There's a point, I feel, and you might not feel this way, that's fine, this is just my opinion, where convenience and ease of use kind of ruins the whole point of the system it's trying to improve. I mean, there's a ton of easy fixes for this too. Even band-aid fixes would work. Optional level caps, scaled trainers and gyms, locking off the XP candies until you've actually beaten the main story, new evolution methods for Pokemon like Magikarp, so you actually have to put in some effort. And those are like 4 off the top of my head, and I already think that'd make the experience for each individual player just a little bit more interesting. And the problem is that these are band-aid fixes for a complete mess of a game, which honestly still feels like it's an alpha. These fixes honestly won't do that much if Game Freak is just gonna keep rushing out these broken, glitchy nightmares each time instead of actually making something decent. Heck, maybe if the game was a higher quality experience, I wouldn't even be complaining about this at all. Maybe the EXP stuff would just be a little footnote in an otherwise amazing game. I've been going back to Sword and Shield for footage every now and again, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, there are some nice looking areas here. I think the color theory in Sword and Shield, at least in certain places, looks really nice. And that's what Scarlet and Violet are doing to me. They've got such an astronomical amount of problems that Sword and Shield by comparison are looking better and better over time. Pokemon popping up from the ground? No problem. Scarlet and Violet just blips them into existence. Graphics looking pretty bad for the time? No issues there, mate. Scarlet and Violet's visuals make me want to throw up. Game not running all that well? Hey, memory leak. Now, I'm not saying I prefer Sword and Shield, I don't. I'm just pointing out how each game from Game Freak just keeps getting worse and worse in terms of stability. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the EXP share. I think it could work well, but unfortunately, the games just aren't made well enough to take advantage of a system like this. Pokemon is still kind of ferrying off the back of Gen 1, and they haven't really done all that much to improve the way you train your Pokemon since then, other than just make it easier, which kind of ruins the whole point of training a Pokemon, because it doesn't feel like it's training anymore. That's all from me. That was a big tangent. It wasn't even supposed to be in the video in the first place, but I figured I'd like to talk about it, because otherwise I would be going insane. Back to the video. Ugh. Oh, hey, is that a Flareon? Well, no matter, time to kill myself. Holy crap, is that a dolphin? We will talk about that later. In order to get back to the land quickly, I just jumped off Koraidon and scrambled out of the water. And up a cliff, I guess? How to get back up here? What you looking for, Mr. Soderbergh? Is it any ounce of quality from a game company with infinite money? Because I can't find any either. At this point, I could guess the game clearly didn't want me here in South Province Area 6, so I set a flag on Giacomo, one of the Team Star leaders, as our next destination. Funnily enough, until recently, I had no idea how to pronounce his name, calling him Giacomo most of the time until I found out. Like, what kind of a name is that? I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, now that we have a set goal in mind, I went back to RadicalSoda to do the missions on the other side of the map instead. Look, I gave the game a break after the Psychic Gym fiasco, and then when I booted the game back up the next day, I figured I'd probably want to do the stuff closest to Misagoza, first. Unfortunately, the right side of the map is just as prone to... Well, I mean, it's not a bug if it's consistent, so I'm going to say more Game Freak magic. Could you imagine if it wasn't just the shadow, but the actual castle wall disappearing too here? At least then it would have been kind of funny. Now, I still wanted to battle each and every trainer I came across, but of course, if gyms don't scale with your level, then the trainers definitely don't. Here's a young girl with a level 11 Aracuda, for example. This means you'll be over-leveled for at least one of the 2 early areas here. I mean, with a leveling system like Pokemon's, unless you're gonna automatically scale enemies, I just don't see how it's a good idea. Now, because I spent slightly too long in the west side of the map, I'm gonna blast through the east area. And honestly, I can't really blame myself for that when, again, a Game Freak decided to make their open world game have a level progression that looks like this! Is it just me, or is Aracuda kind of blended in with the wild Pokemon back there? Okay, that was legit hilarious. I was gonna make a joke about the game being several years behind in terms of slang, but I mean, the game is several years behind in terms of basically everything, so that's just par for the course, I suppose. Great, now my Wiglet's invisible. This area is sorta neat, and lots of interlocked paths with higher and lower areas with lots of items to find. However, with every step forward Scarlet and Violet takes, you just know they gotta rocket backwards with the speed of a NASCAR. Hey, did you know that when you open the battle menu to attack, all shadows made by the land just vanish? You got me! How does this even happen? You opened the attack menu and shadows disappear. I can't see any correlation between those two systems. I don't know. I just don't know. Like, what kind of spaghetti-ass code are they running here to the point where the menus impact the environment? I am stumped. I'm totally flabbergasted. This video is already far too long for Game Freak to be throwing curveballs at me like this. I mean, like, come on, man. It's totally consistent in certain areas, but also weirdly inconsistent in others. Why are the shadows over there disappearing, but the ones over here are acting normally? What's going on? Sometimes you don't even have to interact with the menu. Check it out. What's going on here? While I've got you here, and while Bear Grylls still has the move Seed Bomb, I figured I'd mention something I noticed while streaming the game. Take a look at Seed Bomb. And now take a look at the berry eating animation. Firstly, doesn't every Pokemon already have an eating animation? Why not use that here? Point aside, why is my Pokemon eating a big-ass seed? The very same one from the Seed Bomb animation? Do we not have a single berry model for this? If this was any company other than Game Freak, I'd also ask for maybe each consumable berry to have its own model, but I'm only asking for the one here. You can't even give me one? Exploring a little further in and into a more cliffy area, we run into a little thing called Tinkertink. Now, this fairy and steel type line is absolutely adored by many. I think it's possibly the overall favorite of the region. Not for the first form, though, I think. I picked it up myself because, well, you know, it's pink. But it really do just kind of be a baby with a rattle. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's still cute, you know, in a funny looking sort of way. But it'll be interesting, or at least I figured it'd be interesting at the time, to see what sort of a Pokemon it evolved into. I called mine Eggman, and as you might have guessed, it replaced Incredibazinga on the team.
Now, let me show you the power of my latest, greatest creation!
Another new Pokemon popped up right after we found Eggman, a big old crab that is distorting reality. Kill it! One of Giratina's cousins, I guess. I started off thinking Clorf was kind of ugly and didn't really like him, but now I think he's a great funny old crab with rosy cheeks, and the shiny looks spectacular. I think he could have used the pre-evolution, you know, to make Clorf himself, or beef him up a little bit, because honestly, stat-wise, he kind of sucks, but just one look at those loving eyes and you'll be smitten. But as I said back when I first saw him, I thought he looked like ass, so into the box he went. One thing I did learn throughout my trainer battles was that occasionally you'll stumble across one with a black text box instead of the usual white. This means the trainer's what's considered, I guess, an ace trainer, because those aren't actually found in the game. With the way the game's set up, these trainers aren't necessarily all that difficult. I thought they might have more custom moves or something, but they don't seem to. It's honestly just nice to see a trainer with more than one or two Pokemon. You'd be surprised how few trainers max out their party.
Next time on...
I'm gonna quit it with this. Thanks for watching. Next episode, we're gonna go over the next Titan and then also to the town nearby and the gym, I think. There won't be another 10-minute tangent on the XP share again, hopefully.